way. How do you put on a show and you don't know what it is? That's grossly unprofessional.
It's horrible. Yes.
Welcome to the list. This is a show where we pull a movie or show off of our all-time watch list, watch it, and review it for your viewing pleasure. This show we're scratching off the list today is the 2002 series Firefly. 500 years in the future, a renegade crew aboard a small spacecraft tries to survive as they travel the unknown parts of the galaxy and invade warring factions as well as authority agents out to get them. I had not watched this before. I think I tried to watch this once, and I've always heard that this was a good show. You were a fan of this after the fact, right?
My first exposure to this story was with the movie Serenity. I was like, what the hell? So I searched it, watched it, and I became an immediate fan.
So I just heard so much about it now, and it's now 20 years old. So 20 years later, I think it deserves a chance.
Maybe, I don't know.
Throughout the whole 15 episode journey, I couldn't stop thinking how great of a Nathan Fillion would have been.
And when you see the test, the little movie he did with
there was a short that was great.
Did you know this was the first Nathan Fillion's first leading role?
Oh, see, that's why when I was talking about the cast, I was like, I don't know who of the cast was actually like a huge star back then.
I don't think any of them.
So while I was watching Nathan Fillion play Miss Reynolds, I was trying to figure out, is he borrowing from Han Solo? Like, where is he? Is he just his own thing? Because he'll throw some soloisms in there. He'll try to be cool, but he's a bit more militant about everything that he does. He does no bull. He's harsher. He's just harder. And he has these flashes of charisma with people that he trusts.
Or people he wants to get
something from, right.
His characters was based on older movies.
It was nice to see Mr. Voiceover Alan Tudyk in there. He's great.
And he is just as charismatic as you would have imagined.
Yeah, and it seems like maybe it's just I'm making the comparison to Mass Effect, but like the fat guy is always the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess you have to be a crazy mofo to be the pilot, I feel like.
To pull the shit they pull?
Yeah.
No mames.
Then you got Morena as the companion, aka the whore, but don't call her that. She's distractingly beautiful, man.
When she was on screen, I had those sequences or scenes I had to watch twice. Yeah. Because the first time I watched them, I was just looking at her and admiring her.
Yeah.
The second time, I was like, okay, what the hell did she say?
They disguise the whole whore thing and they elevate it by calling it a companion. It's more than just sex like that. And she carries herself like a professional companion. And it really does feel like she values that to provide something other than sex.
They make it a point through and across the show to tell you that she's not a whore. She's a companion. And a companion is a person that has to be taught so many things and know how to read people. And it comes in one of the episodes that one of the characters is also trained as a companion and uses those wits against her.
Yeah, there's a whole art form to the companionship because there's skills you need to acquire. Not sexual, reading people, and it's like how to deal with people, how to almost like enchant them in a way. And it's like a whole skill thing. Almost like Jedis, kind of feels like.
Yeah, sexual Jedis.
Yeah, and then that was the whole conflict between her and Mal because he kept seeing the sex part and he wouldn't get past that. It's way more than that.
It's because he doesn't want to like cross any lines because you feel the tension between those two, but he wants to keep her at bay.
Yeah, it's a whole will they or won't they throughout the whole series, which kind of got me annoyed because it's like you both want each other, and then she's crying when he makes out and does the nasty with some other lady. So it's like, but you keep pushing him away. So then, what the do you want? Like it gets complicated and muddy, and I wasn't a huge fan of that part.
I mean, me neither. But you gotta understand, This was supposed to be a 7-season show.
Oh.
There was a whole plot line where Inaro, or Miranda Baccarin's character, has supposed to have a terminal illness.
Oh.
Some stuff during the series was carried in that way, but since dumbass Fox canceled it because some stupid reasons, they could not fledge out all those storylines, all those plot lines. Will they? Won't they? No, they just cut it.
You also got Gina Torres as Zoe. She was great.
Oh my God, that is what a badass woman is supposed to be.
Yes. I never questioned anything about her ever. I don't know why it's so hard to do that today. And the whole cast is like that. Keely as a mechanic, right? She's great.
They are so well-rounded. They're flawed, but they're the best at what they do. And I love it. And they explain that. Why is she so good? Why? During the show, not just in one episode. And that can be said with every character.
And didn't hammer it over the head. It was just like, well, I work with my dad and he forced me to do it, or whatever the hell she said, right? But both her and Zoe can be considered pretty progressive characters, you know? She's the second lady. And when it comes to combat and fighting and doing the deals, and like, she's more of the muscle than even Jane is. And he's supposed to be the brute, you know? He's the moron. He's a sniper, which is weird. It's also funny how he's like the brute, right? But his body is like whacker than what the main guys of today is now. You know what I'm saying? I would die for his body, right? But he's like the big scary buff guy, and he's like so meh compared to like the leading male action figures that we look at today.
I think his intimidation, other than with his size, is more in his savagery and his delight in inflicting pain.
Right.
Because it even comes out as comedic.
Yeah, because he's a moron, so it helps. But the cast is pretty progressive, and even for 2002, like I said, you have Zoe. She's the second-hand lady.
And no one questions it.
No one questions her. As a viewer, you don't question her. Because now you would watch a lady and you're like, okay, just because? Okay, like...
Because Joss took his time to flesh them out in a way that is not normal to normal storytelling. That he used his medium beautifully. He had 14 episodes. He sprinkled their story across. He sprinkled their origins, their quirks, their weaknesses, their strengths, and complemented them with each other's.
Right? It doesn't matter who writes it, but they just have to be full-fledged characters that feel like human beings to relate to.
Fox executives hated the fact that Wash and Zoe were married.
Why?
They wanted to explore a relationship with Mal. Some of that complexity, Joss and the cast gave a resounding no. You ain't touching shit about the story.
Yeah, because that's been there and done that. That's why the executives probably wanted it, because that's what they always do. The main man gets the main lady, right? And she's like kind of the main lady in battle.
It's also a very clear distinction that she is a main lady in battle, but she is not the main girl.
In a show with an ensemble cast, the show's only as strong as those characters are. The personalities, their interactions with each other, and the scenarios that they put themselves in, right? So you also have this doctor and his sister River, who I think River was my favorite character.
River was hilarious, and she was the actress Summer Glau. She was kind of the curse word, because after she messed up like a particularly complicated line, every time they messed up, and they go, "Summer!" They just scream it, and they carried on throughout the series.
That'd be traumatizing.
Yeah, she was 19 years old when
Yeah.
she was a kid. Normally, I hate religious characters in shows.
Yeah.
But they made him so charismatic, so protecting, so he was kind of intimidating. Also,
the shepherd was cool because there's a episode where River is arguing or discussing with the shepherd about God and the religion, where she's like giving him facts and like that can't happen and yada yada yada.
She said the Bible's wrong.
Yeah, the Bible's wrong. And I just love that whole altercation because it's two different points of view having a civilized discussion, and at the end even River was like, like she got it and kind of understood it from the shepherd's point of view.
It was very sweet.
So yeah, as you mentioned a few times already, Joss Whedon created this show, and again, he did a great job. Just don't let him direct any Justice League movies, and we're good. The theme song is actually pretty catchy because you get to hear it a bunch of times.
Oh, say what?
It oddly fits. They use orchestral country music, and it's a bit unexpected for like a space show, but it fits because it's more of a space western show more than anything.
Yeah, it's just cowboys in space shooting lasers and stuff.
Take my love, take my land, take me where I cannot stand.
And I don't know if it was like to save money or something, but I also like when they have shots of the ship outside of it, they wouldn't use like space pew pew noises. They would use that musical cue.
And that's because there's no sound in space.
This is a 20-year-old TV show, but even the ship's CGI didn't look that terrible.
Nah, because they combine kind of shaky cam with the hands, with it's beautiful.
There's a lot of camera zooms and unique movements that made it super different, and I noticed that off the jump.
There was a chase sequence towards the end of the series. That just blew my mind because, I mean, you see that those are like PlayStation 2 graphics.
Yeah.
But they looked amazing.
So we do travel to different planets that we get to see throughout the whole series, even though they all looked exactly the same. But they're usually deserts, and I believe that we were in different planets.
Even in the cow episode, you do believe that they're different planets, and they're actually named after Shakespeare characters because Whedon and the cast used to spit lines from Shakespeare's plays at Whedon's house.
So they would hang out together?
Yeah.
That's why it works. You can feel all those, that camaraderie being translated on screen. That makes sense now.
They almost never use the trailers. Everybody hung out in the common room, in the lounge area.
That's why everything feels so comfortable and like housewarming. It feels warm.
Those whole sets feel like lived in, and that's pretty dope in the whole series. The interior of the ship was completely built on two sound stages. So the first sound stage had the whole first deck, which is the bridge, the cruise quarters, the lounge, and the engine room. And in the other sound stage was like the quarters for Simon and like the secondary characters. We got the the cargo hold, and everything was interconnected. Like it existed, and that made the whole thing very believable. The amount of work they put into making this believable was so that everything makes sense and you believe it.
Yeah, that's throughout the whole show. There is some action scenes. I wouldn't say they're like amazing. They're pretty standard. There's some shootouts. There's some hand-in-hand combat. I mean, there's a bar fight that's pretty cool, but other than that,
that was fun.
There's not one action scene that you like have to see.
They're okay. I mean, for the show that it is, it's mostly character work, so action here and there, it's fun, it's fine. But you do feel the peril in the characters, because I remember a specific sword fight that I was like, oh, he did not come out unscathed out of that one.
But that sword fight was like important to the story.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
But still, you kind of believe that he was a doofus.
Throughout the series, especially Tudyk's character, Wash, he throws like a different language word in there. Is it Chinese? Because around episode 12, they mentioned Chinese, but up until then, I didn't know if it was Chinese or it was like a created language that they did.
Oh no, every time you hear something that is not English, it is Chinese.
Okay.
US and China were the only two superpowers left after, I don't know why. So that's what the alliance is. And that's what they hate. So they ally to themselves, and that's the whole government, and that's why they speak Chinese. Also, they kind of did it to get around the censors. So most of the times when they're speaking Chinese or something, they're actually cursing.
Oh. In the episode Safe, which focuses on the brother and sister's character.
Oh.
Early on, you get to see a very familiar face in a young Zac Efron playing the doctor. I was like, what are you doing, you High School Musical goofy ass?
Like, as soon as I saw his face, I was like, Zachy boy?
Yeah, what the hell? I thought I recognized somebody else as an extra, but I couldn't find anything online. So if you know, if this is in fact Joel Edgerton, please let me know.
Oh, it looks like him.
It looks just like him. But I Googled, and Google, even like there were Reddit posts, and no one could actually confirm or deny the fact that that's Joel Edgerton as an uncredited extra. Looks just like him.
Okay, so people, please share this episode with Joel Edgerton so he can confirm or deny his participation on the series.
I would only accept his response.
Yes.
And then probably my favorite episode is Our Miss Reynolds.
You don't like trash?
Trash is good too. Well, those two episodes are the only two episodes that feature Christina Hendricks, and golly, man, I'd be dead. So, homegirl is fine as hell, right? And she just shows up and she's like, oh, I'm Mel's wife or whatever. The way that she first starts off the episode, you're like, oh, right? She's like a stowaway, and she wakes up and she's like, yeah, I'm your wife, yada, yada, yada. Her whole circumstance, she like gives her whole sob story like halfway through the episode, and she starts saying stuff like, I've made myself ready for you. You're just like, Jesus Christ. He's still trying to be a gentleman, like, no, mamis, I didn't marry you. Like, chill.
Shepard gave him the best line in this whole series.
Yeah.
If you take sexual advantage of her, you're going to burn in a very special level of hell. A level they reserve for child molesters and people who talk at the theater.
That is probably the best line in the whole thing. Then she goes into this whole spiel that she would still pick him, even though if it was this whole weird scenario that's set up in this specific episode.
Mm-hmm.
She's so fine and enchanting as well. It's like her companion skills are working on us, the audience, too.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because she finagles the whole crew, right? She doesn't just...
Even Inara for a moment.
For a split second, but I would have died, because that's what she does to every man. And in the episode that Felix mentioned, she returns again, and it's a whole thing. And now you know, I don't trust you. Like the whole episode, you're like, keep an eye on you. And she still gets you somehow. You're like, okay. And then it just keeps digging a bigger hole how big of a piece of she actually is. But she wins you over. You're like, God, wait.
Even though she left Philly naked in the desert.
It starts with his bared ass facing the camera. You're like, okay, this is gonna be good.
Actually, the gag reel ends with his bare ass, like gag reel. The camera just zooms in and just closes in his bare butt. Y boom, se acaba el gag reel.
Nice. The episode Janestown was pretty fun as well. In this episode, they fall upon a planet who's worshiping Jane, the goofy ass brute. But I spotted a goof. I don't know if you knew.
What?
So early on, because they end up at a planet where they're farming mud because they use mud for other things. The guy who's selling the mud is talking to the doctor because the doctor has to pretend to be the owner.
That whole scene was hilarious.
That whole scene. And during that scene, he grabs a thing of mud and splots it on the doctor's back.
Uh-huh.
But then after when they're finished with that conversation, they turn around, they walk away. You can't see the mud on the doctor's back anymore. His back is clean. So well into the series, there's an episode where there's a bunch of flashbacks as how Mal acquired the ship.
That was one of my favorites.
And it wasn't until this episode, which is like well into halfway through, that I didn't realize that there actually isn't a main focus or main objective to the story. It's like each episode is just a certain mission. We're just kind of along for the ride.
And that's halfway through the series.
There's just different jobs. They're visiting here. They're going to this planet. Sometimes they're getting backstories of the crew. But the world building done through these episodes is done brilliantly. And I couldn't stop thinking about Cowboy Bebop throughout the whole time.
It does feel like that, to the point where you have no aliens. It's just humans. Because there was a line, I can't remember what episode, that humans have traveled the whole verse and never seen alien life. I was like, whoa.
But I like to call them video game episodes because it's like each episode is a single mission. You almost don't need a whole lot of backstory, but there's not like a big bad guy that they're chasing or anything like that.
No, not by a long shot.
But even like Cowboy Bebop, which I feel this is heavily inspired by.
Yep.
It's not a bad thing. If you're inspired by something and twisted enough to make it your own, that's what we all want, because you created something that's pretty awesome, honestly. Even Cowboy Bebop, even though that each episode can be a standalone, there was still a main mission interwoven within it. You know, they would sprinkle a little bit of the main mission as you go along that eventually gets concluded a little bit at the end.
Yeah, with episodes not even touching upon it.
Right. Some episodes will not touch upon it. Then you would have a whole episode that would progress that specific story a little bit more, and then they would go back and forth. And this just does not have that at all. Do you think that's missing?
Yes, it is missing, but I would imagine that would have been introduced in the second season, or if they would have completed more episodes of the first season, I think they would have started to touch upon it to continue the whole series.
Like, the main thing that comes up the top of my head is like, they need like the main guy at the Federation to be chasing them or something like that, or a main guy chasing, like his brother is actually the head of the feds or something.
Well, no, I think I do see an overarching story or an overarching mission with the whole Federation looking for Summer and Simon.
Yeah. But I did feel like someone needed to die. It's missing some unpredictability and heaviness, you know, because it's like, okay, I know no one's going to die. They do tease Keely dying in the very beginning of the very first episode, like, oh no, not the cute mechanic girl. And then, because she's so sweet too, so I want her to die. She's fucking great.
The whole thing with the series is that it's supposed to be a bunch of underdogs of trying to live in the universe. And that's one of the things that Fox didn't like. Fox wanted more of a comedy, and actually the trailer for the series was cut as a comedy because that's what they wanted. And after they got the script and the series and whatever, they was like, "Oh no, we don't like this."
How do you put on a show and you don't know what it is? That's grossly unprofessional.
It's horrible. Yes, I mean, to the point where the cast has to say no. If we're gonna do this, we're gonna stick to Joss's script. They wanted the whole series to be lighter, but they wanted Mal to shoot more people. So that's the type of incongruency we're dealing with here. There's so much conflicting of interests that they said, you know what, we're gonna do our thing. The episodes released in the worst order, and they released how Fox saw it was best to introduce the characters.
Okay.
So for example, the first episode are supposed to be Serenity, which is an hour and a half episode. It counts as 2.
Yeah.
But they opened with the second one, which was the train job. So the order they started as 2, 3, 6. Then they paused, then 7, 8, 4, 5, and the rest as a horrible order. Yeah. That's why it was canceled. They had very low ratings because they did not understand some of the plot lines that were weaved throughout the series. If you watch it in the order Whedon, after the fact, it gave, Sci-Fi bought it and they syndicated it and they aired it in the correct order. The DVDs all have the correct order. So this mismatching of episodes meant that they had a very, very low rating. And they say, you know what? It's a low rating. The show's too dark. And they started just grabbing stuff to make it look like, oh no, this show is going to cancel. It's going to tank, so we canceled it. And they did. To the point where the fans and a lot of people started petitions where UPN bought the rights to the series and was going to launch a second season, but they just couldn't do it. The only green light they received to continue and close the story was the movie Serenity.
And that was because of the petition?
Not that petition, but because fans and everybody wanted a closure to the story, or a closure.
Right, because the last episode, at least the order that I saw it, which was the Joss Whedon way, there's this weird, really cool ass bounty hunter just looking for River, and they deal with him and it just ends. And like I said, because there's no main story, it just ends as if it's just another episode. You're kind of like, okay.
All of this and some other loose ends, they touch upon that in the movie.
You said this was written to be 7 seasons.
Yeah.
Do you think if they would have kept going, it would have gotten better, worse, or the same?
I think it would have gotten slowly better, but I think 7 seasons is too much.
Yeah.
I think with 4 or 5 would have been enough. With this episode count.
Again, because there's no like main story, they could kept going because you just keep making up jobs.
Yeah.
Just keep making up jobs, and if you just keep making them fun, you could have kept going for 7 seasons. I think that the show is still fun 20 years later. As a newcomer, I need to express that so I don't get lit up on the comments. There's a ton of heart. There's some action. There's cool visuals for the times that you have to look past, but they're not even in the way.
No.
Well, now I understand why it didn't succeed. It was because the old fat the top didn't know what they had.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a great show if you can get your hands on it, if you can find it online, if you're into space, western, sci-fi stuff at all and you have not checked it out, I 100% recommend it. It's only 15 episodes. And the movie, as Felix mentioned a bunch of times, I have not seen the movie, but if you guys want us to do the movie for the list, I need this video to get 100 likes and we'll do the movie Serenity for the list. So like, comment, and subscribe, and comment down below on anything you might have missed. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to always and forever, you do.
Bye.